I echo my colleagues in just being so excited that you all are here with us to really co-construct today. So first off, as Shirley mentioned, my name is Travis York. I serve as the head of our kind of external facing diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility work at AAAS. What that really means is I have an incredible team of about 30 people who really lead that work and give me very long to-do lists. And so I'm really, really happy that we can gather with you all today. I also just want to take a brief moment as the son of a very proud half Choctaw, quarter Cherokee man, my father, that was a weird way to say that. I just want to take a moment to do a brief land acknowledgement for the space in which we're gathering today. And if any of you are unfamiliar with a land acknowledgement, it essentially is a way to just pay honor and respect to the elders of the past and current on whose indigenous territories and lands that we're currently gathering. So I won't list the territories where I live and work, but I'm going to try to list the territories for the Chicago area. And I have tried my best to learn the correct pronunciations, but I'm sure I'm going to mess that up a little bit. So please correct me at the reception and let me know what I've done wrong, please. So there's actually 5 territories that we're gathering on today. This is a really rich space that a lot of indigenous communities have lived and worked in the past and still today. So there's Peoria, Potawatomi, that sounds, yeah, I'm getting a couple nods. Potawatomi, Miami, Kaskaskia, and the Kickapoo territories. So I want to honor that space, honor the space in which we're gathering today, and the work that we're going to be doing today. And I hope that we can continue to acknowledge not only these communities, but the really diverse, rich communities that, of people that currently live in and around the Chicago area and call this space our homes, your homes. And we're happy to be guests in that space for my team and I today. As I said, it's an honor to be here with you all today for this. This is our 8th STEM Opportunity Alliance since we launched, not counting the launch in December at the White House. And if you're doing the math, that's a lot of events in a small amount of time. But what was really important to us was that we would when we were first launching the STEM Opportunity Alliance, we thought it crucial not to launch with a 12-point plan that we would announce with the White House about how to solve equity in STEM. We knew that that was actually an impossibility. And instead we said, we want to spend the first year of the Alliance continuing to grow the movement, continuing to add partners, and we actually want to co-construct a national strategic plan with communities across the country. So we have been doing that in regions literally all across the country. We have several SOA events still to come this year. And part of what we've been doing is engaging those community members in really, really important, I would say part of the most important thing that we're here for today is this co-construction piece. I'm going to share with you a little bit about that and what our goals are for that. Now, as I mentioned, we're going to move we have a panel discussion, which I'm really excited about right after I speak, and then we're going to move into facilitated small groups. You'll get a couple more details right before we go into those small groups about which group you might be in, if you want to switch groups because you realize you made a fatal flaw in your choice when you registered, all of that sort of stuff you'll get a chance to do. And we also shared with you a draft of the National Strategic Framework that our team put together. But what we're going to be asking you to do is to really think about that as very much a draft that needs to be iterated, a draft that has holes and gaps and that needs your expertise. And so the work that we'll be doing with you today is to actually think much more about what we've been calling a cathedral building approach to our work. This is actually what Una King, who's the Vice President for DEI at Snapchat, said when we asked her to join our advisory committee. When we explained to her what our goals for SOA were, she said, "Oh, you're doing cathedral building. You were thinking in a long-term strategic way about what is the generational change that must occur. And you realize, I hope, that the work that the STEM ecosystem you're trying to build, you will probably never live in." And we said, yes, that's exactly what we're trying to do. So we have this long-term goal for the STEM Opportunity Alliance. We're building out this national strategic plan, and we are trying to envision what would an equitable and excellent STEM ecosystem look like, where barriers are removed for all people to, as Shirley and our CEO says to view STEM as their birthright, where they actually don't know that about Shirley's groundbreaking, I mean, I hope they do know, but they don't necessarily know about Shirley's groundbreaking research in 1976 called the double bind, or the work that I've done around low-income students and indigenous students and sexual orientation for LGBTQ students in STEM, but in fact are thinking long-term about the fact that they just belong in STEM because of who they are. Because of who they are, not in spite of who they are. And so we're taking this 2050 kind of view to our work, but we also keep very much in mind Dr. King's words about the fierce urgency of now. And so while we're trying to create this national strategic plan with this vision of what an equitable STEM ecosystem looks like by 2050, so that a child born today will be in that ecosystem, we are also thinking about what does that mean for today, tomorrow, next year, the year after that. What are the reverse engineered actions that we must align on with shared goals and a shared vision to achieve that very strategic and long-term goal? Because it will require that long-term strategic process. So as we think about galvanizing our partners in this space, as we think about crafting those shared agenda items, we hold central to our work, one, listening to our community members, listening to our partners. As you just heard Shirley announce, we started this initiative with just about 90 partners in December. We're now over 125. It is our goal that by this upcoming January, February, about a year after we're launched, it's our goal that we're at 200 partners. And that at the launch of what will be the National Strategic Plan, those partners are actually making commitments about how they will be partners in the implementation of that plan. And so that's the most important thing that we're here to do with you all, is actually we're gonna be putting you to work. You thought it was a free reception, but no, your price to the reception is your genius and your intellect in today's small groups. And we so badly need you and your voice in thinking about that. And so I'm going to ask you to think about, in particular, a couple challenges, because we're giving you a Herculean task. And the longer I talk, the shorter amount of time you have for small groups. So I'm seeing my team nod to their watches. And so I'm just going to say quickly, two important things that we want to encourage you to live in the tension within when you're doing this breakout work. One, we're asking you to think in a multi-phased, kind of zoom in, zoomed out way. We're asking you to actually consider, because you are the context expert of your community, we're asking you to help us understand what are the real opportunities and real pain points in the lived experiences of the people around you and that you work with and that you serve, and how do we translate those at a macro national level, so that the national STEM strategy still makes sense for Chicago. It still makes sense for Mississippi. It still makes sense for Boise. We were there a few weeks ago. It still makes sense for Minneapolis, where we were at on Thursday. But that it has the real concrete experience of your communities at its goal. That's very difficult. And so good luck. No, you're going to help us crack that code. And the other thing that we're going to be asking you to do is that we're going to be asking you to do systems thinking. And systems thinking, thankfully, as a researcher who specializes in this, I'm very happy that a lot of people have heard about structural and systemic things. While people are becoming more aware of it, it's still super hard for people to actually enact real systems change. So we'll be helping you with this, but we want again to ask you to think about not only what are the barriers in your communities, the needs that arise, the opportunities that you see, but to start asking kind of why does that exist and why does that exist, and do this kind of root cause analysis to try to get at what are the systemic barriers or structures that need to be completely dismantled or evolved or revolutionized so that we can really have an equitable STEM ecosystem and pathway. That is really what we're lifting up today in this work, and you are crucial to that. Now, we've been thinking about our work in 4 phases. The first phase was around launching the initiative. It was a really exciting thing to do. There was the first time that the White House had ever had a White House summit on STEM equity and excellence. Yes, equity was actually in the word. Take that, all you states that don't want equity to be spoken about. And we continue to center that work in all of our processes moving forward. This second phase that we're engaged in right now is around the co-construction. And I've just described, central parts of that co-construction with you all. Our team, once we come back from our breakouts, we'll share with you kind of phases 3 and 4 and how you can continue to be engaged in it. But this is what we're doing kind of right now, this deep work around co-constructing, further developing our partners. We have about $1.6 billion of dedicated commitment. That's not money to us. That's money that our partners are already using to make their communities better and more equitable. And we want to help think about how do we marshal those resources in a way that have this kind of compounding effect. And that's what STEM Opportunity is, one of the central things about STEM Opportunity Alliance. It's about increasing the kind of return on investment, or ROI, by us having shared vision and mutually reinforcing activities to really maximize our work. So thank you again for today. Thank you for the work that you're already going to be calling into. And now I want to get into this really exciting panel so that you can hear some about how that's already happening in your backyards.